Tonight, double trouble for families, crunch time for interest rates, petrol prices set to hit new highs this week.
A dramatic fire in Melbourne's west. One person taken to hospital. Details live.
A police officer left facing a life of pain after he was run down by a driver high on drugs.
A message of thanks from the Queen after a surprise appearance.
The historic payday for a young Australian sports star.
And later, a brave mum's heartbreak, 3 jobs to make ends meet and forced to move her family into a camper trailer.
I'm really tired of doing it this hard all the time.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. Victorian families can expect a double dose of price pain this week, with interest rates expected to rise tomorrow and new highs predicted for petrol prices.
The Reserve Bank makes the call on interest rates tomorrow, with key economists forecasting a rise of at least 0.25%.
Too many twos for Bayside drivers this morning, sitting well above Melbourne's average of $1.96 per litre, which is on the way up. CommSec says the average monthly fuel bill is now $275, up more than $50 since January.
Over the next week or so, we could see prices as high as $2.25 a litre.
And that's just the average. The Reserve Bank meets tomorrow. Another rate rise appears likely.
We'll see an interest rate hike of at least 0.25% or 25 basis points.
It's a delicate task, cooling the economy without pushing households to the brink.
And if we're already starting to see signs of that, then they probably won't have to raise interest rates to onerous levels.
Energy and grocery prices are adding inflationary pressure along with fuel. Economists say the fuel price rise is simple, not enough supply. China lockdowns are ending, sure to increase demand further, plus the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine and related sanctions.
Both of those factors are likely to have a sustained influence on our petrol prices in the foreseeable future.
The government's 22-cent cut to the fuel excise now eaten up. It ends in September. Fuel's wholesale price bottomed out in June 2020 when much of the world was in lockdown. Since then, it's a steady climb. This sharp peak represents Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Today's price has now eclipsed that and is almost 4 times what it was 2 years ago. Just in time for a long weekend.
It really just boils down to is where does the petrol price cycle fall relative to public holidays?
Fill up now if you are hitting the road for the long weekend.
There's not much you can immediately do about rate rises, but you can avoid paying too much for fuel. The RACV's website is one of several that has current prices on a map. Today, it could have saved you up to 40 cents a litre. A week ahead of further pressure on the household budget. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
A woman has been taken to hospital after a fire emergency in Melton West. Rochelle Brown has the latest from the Alfred. Rochelle, she's being treated for burns.
Beck, hero neighbours rushed to help after the fierce blaze engulfed the Balmoral Place home just after 3 this afternoon. The panicked residents feared their pet dog was trapped in the fire. The inferno was so fierce it threatened neighbouring properties and spread to a parked car. A woman was helped from the house and is being treated for burns and smoke inhalation. The dog was located safe and well.
Well, I was playing my Xbox and then all of a sudden my girlfriend said to me, babe, quick, there's a fire outside. I jumped out of bed and then I ran outside and all I seen was this big black smoke behind me.
It's a really good timely reminder in regards to ensuring you have working smoke alarms leading into the winter months.
At this stage, investigators aren't treating the fire as suspicious. Beck?
Rochelle Brown, thank you.
A police officer has cried as he detailed his life of pain and the impact on his family after he was run down by a driver high on drugs. The teenager had been using ice and marijuana when he hit the officer, but a judge says he's not likely to send him to jail.
Benjamin Sorini was smoking marijuana on the night he drove at a policeman, leaving him with a broken leg and psychological trauma. The 19-year-old was in his parked car with mates when Senior Constable Rowan Brown pulled up in front of him and got out. Sorini later said smoke in the cabin made it hard to see as he drove off, hitting the officer. "I feel so stupid. I didn't mean to hit him. I really regret what I did."
Did you really not see anyone that night through your windscreen?
No comment.
Today, in an emotional victim impact statement of the County Court, Senior Constable Brown said, "I could have lost my life due to someone else's reckless actions." He spoke about suffering pain and fatigue every day and lamented that Sorini's consequences will not match his own. Senior Constable Rowan Brown broke down several times as he spoke about the effect on his wife and children. Wiping away tears, he said it had been a strain on his marriage with 4 operations, serious infections and 7 months on antibiotics. How was that to hear your victim's pain?
No comment.
A jury found Sorini guilty of negligently causing serious injury, but acquitted him of serious charges, including recklessly exposing an emergency services worker to risk by driving. He will be sentenced next month, the judge indicating he's likely to avoid jail. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
A former AFL star has slammed cowardly attacks in local football after he needed hospital treatment on Saturday. Ex-North Melbourne and Brisbane Lion Ryan Bastanak says he was head-butted behind play during Pearcedale's game against Langwarrin in the Mornington Peninsula League. Bastanak needed 6 stitches and took to social media to call out cowards who target former AFL players. Pearcedale has filed an official complaint with the league.
The Queen has issued a message of thanks, saying she's humbled and deeply touched by Platinum Jubilee celebrations to mark her reign. The 96-year-old monarch was forced to withdraw from key celebrations, but made a special appearance for the finale.
After 4 days of celebrations, the Queen with an encore performance of her own.
This is the moment. This is the moment. When London, when the UK, when the Commonwealth says thank you to Her Majesty.
Britons delivered their special message, woven into the words of their national anthem. It lasted just minutes, an appearance on the Buckingham Palace balcony. Her Majesty and just 7 other members of her family, including 3 future kings, Charles, William, George. Enough to bring a smile to the Queen in green, whose personal motto is she must be seen to be believed. In a personal message, the monarch acknowledged when it comes to how to mark 70 years as your Queen, there is no guidebook to follow. It really is a first. While I may not have attended every event in person, my heart has been with you all, and I remain committed to serving you to the best of my ability, supported by my family. Signed in her hand, Elizabeth R. It capped off yet another day filled with colour and the quirks of British culture. A pageant down the Mall, celebrating the United Kingdom, its history across the 7 decades of the Queen's reign, and the Commonwealth, an institution forged by the monarch herself. Australia was represented by the Federation Guard. The Royal Gold State Coach, built in 1762 and weighing 4 tonnes, displayed a hologram of Elizabeth on her coronation. Ed Sheeran led a touching tribute to the Queen and her late Prince.
Darling, just kiss me slow. Your heart is all I own, and in your eyes you're holding mine.
All enough to bring tens of thousands onto London streets for a 4th day. And keep a mischievous Prince Louis entertained once more. There was plenty to see, but not always worth looking at. As he bounded about, his grandfather stepped in, hoping a little dance might be enough. If there's a breakout star of this weekend, it is perhaps this 4-year-old, who might just be a bit of a handful. In its long storied history, London has never really seen a weekend quite like this one, a Platinum Jubilee celebration that won't be repeated for many decades to come.
We're so proud of our Queen, 70 years, my goodness, you know, we're just so emotional about it.
It's been brilliant. I mean, London's really alive and exciting.
She loves a party and she'll love to sit there and think of us having a good time here.
Across Britain, 60,000 events were held, street parties and the longest of lunches. A much needed reminder of how to have fun. all to celebrate a queen whose reign may never be matched. In London, Hugh Whitfell, 7 News.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is promising to strengthen Australia's ties across Southeast Asia after meeting Indonesia's president. Both leaders discussing the growing influence of China as Beijing muscles in on the Indo-Pacific.
Freewheeling diplomacy, an obvious sign of just how dramatically the political cycle has changed.
It's a bamboo bike. Yeah, bamboo bike.
Indonesia's Joko Widodo treats Anthony Albanese to a private ride around his presidential palace grounds.
I can confirm to members of my delegation that there were no incidents.
The president gifting one of the bamboo bikes to the Prime Minister, an informal display after a very formal welcome. Greeted by an honour guard, not the first time they've met, but the first time as leaders, planting a tree symbolising the long-term growth in their country's relationship. Before getting down to the official business of discussing bilateral affairs.
I have a lot of respect for President Widodo's high ambitions for Indonesia's future, and I share his optimism.
One-on-one in a relaxed setting, then the more traditional formalised meeting of ministers. Mr Albanese accepting President Jokowi's invitation to the G20 in Bali in November, where both Russia's Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to appear via video link.
The work of the G20 is critical at this time of global economic uncertainty.
Also discussed a shared commitment to regional action on climate change, food security, visas for Indonesian postgraduate students, and mutual concerns over China's mobilisation of both its military and its money to exert greater influence in the Asia-Pacific.
Strategic cooperation in the region needs to be managed properly to avoid open conflicts.
Anthony Albanese has declared there's a new show in town in Australia and promised a fresh approach to relations with Southeast Asia, an often confusing and chaotic region. In Jakarta, Mark Riley, 7 News.
A man's fighting for life after being hit by a car at Noble Park at 11 a.m. He was walking across the Princess Highway at a set of traffic lights when he was struck by a car on Chandler Road. He was taken to hospital with critical injuries. The driver stopped at the scene.
Victoria's major political parties face voter backlash in November's state election. Some of the biggest names in Parliament risk losing their seats as new key battlegrounds emerge in the fight for power.
Hard hats and high vis, must-haves for any Labor minister.
Quite a bit of rain on site over the weekend.
But 5 months from a state election, the pressure is on the government to sell major projects and the opposition to be a viable alternative.
Signs are pretty clear that voters are not happy with what the major parties are doing.
The Andrews government has made 33 announcements since May, including 10 that were attended by the Premier. The majority of the announcements were made in Melbourne's east and north, while 7 focused on revitalising the city. Roads and infrastructure, including level crossings and station upgrades, featured 9 times, so too health announcements. But new data shows Treasurer Tim Pallas could lose his seat of Werribee, while opposition leader Matthew Guy also faces a major fight. The state government and opposition are already in campaign mode, but their independent opponents are yet to emerge. And while their presence is likely to hit the Liberal Party harder, political experts say their power means no seat can be taken for granted.
I think it means that the Victorian people have the highest of expectations of political parties, of politicians.
The great thing about elections, the great thing about democracy is they're a contest, and we take nothing for granted.
I think seats such as Brighton, Kew, Caulfield and Sandringham is where I'd expect the Teals to pop up and to do really well in.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
Today's chilly temperatures are just the start of a long spell of cold weather. Live now to Sarah Jones. Sarah, we're being told to get used to these icy days.
Beck, it's cold now and it's only going to get worse. Tomorrow we'll see highs of just 11 degrees, but it's going to feel much cooler than that because of the wind. And if you're headed away this long weekend, well, it's not looking much better.
bracing the winter chill.
Yeah, it's been very cold.
The icy wind gusts made it feel close to zero around the city, but it didn't stop Melburnians getting in their exercise. In the Alpine region, bucket loads of fresh snow continued to fall this morning after a successful weekend on the mountains. Hotham has had more than a metre since late last week, plenty in Falls Creek, and Mount Buller 34 centimetres there today. The cold snap comes with an urgent warning from our fire services as the heating gets turned up.
It's really about putting smoke alarms into every bedroom in your house.
Ron Begaff's family home in Canterbury was destroyed by fire in November last year. He wouldn't have made it out alive if it wasn't for his smoke detectors.
It's probably one of the cheapest forms of insurance, or at least life insurance at that.
Trees have also been brought down in the wintry weather. This was late yesterday in Toorak.
There will be no reprieve for Melburnians. The cold snap will stick around all week and even over the long weekend, with top temperatures no higher than 13 degrees.
There's a chance of hail tomorrow too.
And we've got a cold winter coming on, I would say.
And it isn't just humans escaping the chill.
Sales of pet electric blankets up 95% on eBay.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
To breaking news coming out of the UK, and Boris Johnson will face a vote of no confidence tonight. The Prime Minister's fate will be decided in the coming hours. At least 54 Tory MPs have declared they have no confidence in their leader. At least 180 MPs will have to vote against Mr Johnson tonight for him to be forced out of the top job. It follows anger over the report into rule-breaking lockdown parties at Downing Street. Australian golfer Minjee Lee is toasting a record payday after winning the US Open in North Carolina. The 26-year-old showed nerves of steel to capture her second major title.
A 2.5-foot putt for $2.5 million.
Minjee Lee wins the US Women's Open at Pine Needles.
Australia's Minjee Lee is on top of the sporting world after securing the biggest payday in the history of women's golf.
I mean, I'm speechless. I can't believe it right now.
The 26-year-old is just the 15th Aussie to win a golfing major, posting the best score in US Open history to secure a 4-stroke victory.
It's been my dream since I was a little girl. It's the one that I've always wanted to win, so now I've done it and it just feels amazing.
Dad Sunam woke up at 3 a.m. to watch his daughter rewrite the record books.
Dreams come true and the US Open is champion. Oh, that's amazing.
After the win, it was straight back to business for the proud father, who runs a cafe in Perth.
This championship featured the largest purse in the history of women's golf.
I mean, it's such a large sum, and I'm really honoured to be the first.
Buy Dad something nice?
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
A winner's cheque that can now buy around 500,000 lattes. Abby Jelmy, 7 News.
Fantastic stuff. Tim Watson's here with a look ahead to sport. Damien Hardwick isn't happy.
No, he's not, Beck. He says the Tigers are a victim of their own success. We'll dig deeper shortly as two premiership stars race to return for the round 13 opener against Port. We speak with Andy McGrath about his fitness fight ahead of a Friday night grudge match, and Rafa reigns supreme as the King of Clay produces a French Open masterclass. And there's some breaking news too on a star pie in hot water. Would have been a nice place to be today.
It would. You're right.
Very good. Thank you very much, Tim. Well, drivers say they've been caught in a speed trap confusion on the Nepean Highway. Up next, the fight over thousands of dollars worth of fines in Frankston.
Plus a basketball shock as parents storm a court in the northern suburbs.
The shock death of a Bon Jovi original.
Plus, we'll reveal the next Big Freeze M&D slider, and it's someone close to home.
Two unruly parents have been escorted off a basketball court after they charged at a female referee. The two women were filmed storming the court during Saturday's men's final between the Sunbury Jets and the Hume Broncos. The championship game was called off with just 4 minutes to go. Both women have now been banned from the Broncos' future games.
Furious drivers are fighting to overturn hundreds of fines after they were caught by speed zone confusion on the Nepean Highway. They claim they've been fined unfairly because of a 40 kilometres an hour zone that's become a red-hot speed trap.
Catching out unsuspecting drivers in a flash. Authorities say this fixed speed camera has been on the Nepean Highway for 12 years. But furious Frankston locals argue a recently reduced speed limit has sparked a flood of fines.
No one has had time to correct their behaviour. So these fines are being racked up, issued before people even know that they're doing anything wrong.
Maria Davarin says she's never been fined for speeding in 3 decades behind the wheel, until last month when she was hit with 2 tickets in 2 weeks. So she started a Facebook page joined by angry residents who've only just been snapped by the same camera.
Within 6 days, we've logged over 200 people and nearly $100,000 worth in fines.
The Department of Transport says the speed limit was changed in late 2020 when the 40k signs were put up.
I think where there are speed cameras normally, there's decent signage. There's decent signage around to make sure people know what the speed limit is.
Traffic signs are up, but the reduced limit is only on the southern side of the road and the flashing speed limit lights aren't switched on.
Operational, I don't think anyone would be fined because they would know they're actually entering a 40 zone.
Vic Roads has defended its drop in the speed limit, saying it's necessary to keep pedestrians safe. 30 crashes have been recorded on this strip over a 5-year period. 15 of those resulted in serious injuries. 1 person died.
Not so fast, but definitely furious. Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Russia's president has threatened to strike new targets in Ukraine if the West sends long-range weapons to help fight its invasion. Vladimir Putin's warning came after he ordered the first airstrikes on the capital, Kyiv, in weeks.
On assignment in eastern Ukraine, a Dutch journalist forced to jump for cover. The building nearby hit and now smouldering. As 4 soldiers run from the scene, one is wounded and told to sit down. It's believed he's Australian.
Can you please unload my... Yeah, I'll do.
Just minutes before, this soldier was interviewed, no doubt on his nationality.
I'm from Australia. It's quite far away. Quite hard to get here, and even I stepped up.
It's unsure if it's the same man who was wounded, but the group is a confirmed foreign fighters unit.
It's been amazing how many people from all around the world have come together to help out a country in need.
That as official tributes were paid to the Australian killed there a fortnight ago, Michael O'Neill. From the Defence Legion, we lost our brothers in combat, but their bravery, their memory and legacy will forever inspire us. While Russia has relaunched its assault on the capital, Kyiv. The first time since April 28, when Russia withdrew to focus on the east. Again, civilian targets hit. Tensions rising again. Chris Reason, 7 News.
The founding guitarist of rock band Bon Jovi has died at the age of 70. Alec John Such was the band's bass guitarist from 1983 to 1994 and is credited for bringing the group together. John Bon Jovi told fans they're heartbroken after his bandmate's sudden death. A cause of death has not been released. Jane Bunn joins us now. And Jane, is the cold weather really not leaving us anytime soon?
Mike, it really isn't. The thing we need to make it all end is still a long way away. The high-pressure system south of Perth is allowing surges of cold air to move from Antarctica up to us. For that to end, we need that high to move right over to the Tasman Sea. But it doesn't make it by the long weekend, so we're still chilly at the start of next week. Today, the city peaked at 13. Tomorrow, maybe only 11, and there's nothing above 13 in the outlook. The full details are after sport.
Thank you. 11, wow. There's a solar showdown in the suburbs. Up next, heritage versus sustainability. A homeowner ordered to remove panels from the roof of her house.
Also tonight, a warning on the COVID curse that's shocking Melbourne doctors.
A deadly weekend in the US, multiple mass shootings, but still no action.
And how Tom Cruise is topping box office records. A survey has revealed 7 in 10 city businesses don't expect their staff to ever return to the office full-time. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry survey found work-life balance and lengthy commutes were the reasons workers didn't want to come back.
And then there's about 15% telling us that the fear of catching COVID still leads large for people in Melbourne.
42% of employees work from home at least 3 days a week. Just 19% are back full-time.
A battle has broken out in Canterbury over a home's solar panels. The local council has ordered they be removed because the house is in a heritage area, but the homeowners say it's crazy.
Rosie Ganino and her husband Richard installed solar panels on their Canterbury home for one reason.
We are experiencing a climate crisis and the council has declared a climate emergency.
But now the couple, who's owned the home for more than 30 years, has just 3 weeks to take the panels down. Burundara Council and VCAT determining the panels are in breach of heritage rules.
Extremely disappointed because it's the biggest issue facing humanity, the climate crisis.
The couple already had solar panels on the property's north side, so installed more closer to the street front. They didn't have a permit, so when a neighbour complained to council, they made a detailed submission for one, but were denied. In a statement, Burundara Council says it supports the need for more sustainable energy options like solar panels, but it says these panels are too visible from the street and ruin the heritage value of the home.
They're just sitting on top of the roof. If the next person who buys the house doesn't like them, they can be easily removed.
When the panels go at the end of the month, so too will the clean energy the family was contributing back to the grid. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Mass shootings have claimed more lives in the United States. 3 people died when a gunman opened fire in a bar precinct in Philadelphia. Another 3 were murdered and 17 injured in a nightclub shooting in Tennessee.
I'm tired of standing in front of you talking about guns and bodies.
In all, 11 people were killed in 7 separate attacks over the weekend. The number of mass shootings in the US this year is now 240. At least 50 worshippers, including women and children, have been killed in a church massacre in Nigeria. Gunmen stormed the service using explosives to carry out the atrocity. The country's president has labelled the attack heinous, but hasn't revealed a motive. The governor says the killers will be hunted down and made to pay.
The Top Gun movie sequel is breaking box office records in the US, raking in more than $400 million on the second weekend since its release.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
The latest Top Gun blockbuster is on track to become the best-performing Tom Cruise film of all time, currently held by 2018 movie Mission Impossible Fallout.
Long COVID is becoming a significant health and economic issue, but so far there are few treatment options. GPs say they're being inundated with patients still struggling with the virus months after testing positive.
Angela Franzoni is living with long COVID.
It's been exceptionally distressing, particularly the cognition, because I really don't know how permanent this is. I actually thought that I was going crazy.
She could be one of hundreds of thousands. More than 7 million Australians have caught COVID. The latest research suggests at least 1 in 10 will develop long COVID.
There are people who got COVID at the very beginning of the pandemic who still have long COVID nearly 2.5 years in.
The symptoms include problems concentrating, panic attacks, extreme fatigue, breathlessness.
None of them are visible, unfortunately. You can't see fatigue, you can't see the brain fog. You certainly can't see the racing heart.
People coming in and asking, do I have long COVID, is starting to become increasingly common consult, and I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of that condition.
Inside the Alfred Hospital's long COVID clinic, patient numbers have been growing exponentially.
This year alone, we've managed already 200 patients. So the numbers are increasing. It's a great burden to patients and a great burden to our system as well.
But with very few treatment options and GPs overstretched, researchers fear the illness is going undetected.
We need to urgently set up surveillance programs and systems, which will let us get a handle nationally on how many people are suffering from long COVID.
Researchers are worried about the impact long COVID will have on the economy too, with so many workers needing to take extended periods of time off or reducing their hours. And as COVID infections grow by tens of thousands a day, it's not going to go away.
It's coming. The numbers of infections we've had means that this is now unavoidable, so we have to prepare.
If people don't take it seriously, then people suffer in silence.
Christy Cooper, 7 News.
A famous arcade in the city is closing for a major transformation. Campbell Arcade is an underground connection to Flinders Street Station, and as this animation shows, it'll eventually connect to the new Town Hall station. Built in 1955, it's been popular with workers, shoppers and historians, but is now off limits to the public for the next 2 years while work is carried out. A mother and her 3 children are being forced to live in a camper van this winter. Up next, her heartbreaking story of why she's had to take the drastic action.
I'm really tired of doing it this hard all the time.
Plus, how a Good Samaritan saved his neighbour's life in Melbourne southeast.
And Neil Danaher reveals the very familiar face set to take the icy plunge at the MCG. A Good Samaritan's helped to rescue a sleeping man as his home caught fire at Keysborough this morning. The neighbour ran inside to wake the 29-year-old man after a car burst into flames in the driveway before spreading to the home. Both escaped unharmed and a crime scene's been established.
The share market has had a rough start on the eve of tomorrow's interest rates decision. Network Finance editor Gemma Acton explains.
Thanks, Mike. Well, a disappointing start to the week for the ASX 200, which shed 33 points to close at 7,206. Technology stocks led the decline following their peers on Wall Street, which tumbled sharply heading into the weekend. The Aussie dollar has stepped back from a 6-week peak. It's now buying around 72 US cents, while iron ore prices are now at their highest in a month. Meanwhile, the damage done to airports during the pandemic is shown here, with international passenger numbers almost entirely wiped out last year. Melbourne Airport saw the biggest drop in domestic passengers, while Perth was the least impacted. Mike.
The rental crisis is biting harder than ever, with desperate tenants forced to fundraise online to help them get by. One mother has been forced to move into a camper trailer with her children.
This tiny camper trailer is now home to a mother and 3 children.
What will you miss about living in a house?
My grandparents and a heater.
10-year-old Sultan and her brothers are packing up their rented home of 7 years. Despite working 3 casual jobs, their mother Louise can't make ends meet, and she's fleeing the crippling cost of rent and energy bills.
I'm really tired of doing it this hard all the time.
The family will cook on the side of the road and use free campsites. Their car is on loan, the camper purchased through crowdfunding. Worried friends would like them to upgrade.
I'm incredibly grateful and just, I appreciate some of those beautiful big hearts that people have.
The numbers of desperate tenants launching public appeals for housing assistance has jumped 327% in the past year.
There's an absolute rental crisis at the same time that the cost of essential services are going up. So it's a perfect storm.
State and federal governments' planned social and affordable homes projects can't come soon enough as tenants choose between rent and food.
I know heaps of people that have been in the same situation, similar situation as us.
The cost of Melbourne rentals jumped 4% in the 12 months to March this year to $410 a week. Regional rents leapt 10.1% to $390 a week. The Scarf family is busy selling and giving away their belongings, somehow remaining optimistic.
We'll be able to create spaces using, we've got a couple of tents.
But a little girl worries about how she'll cope when her mother is off looking for work.
Being stuck on the road for a night or being alone in a tent.
The face of a crisis gripping our nation. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
We can now reveal the next big freeze MND slider who'll be taking the icy plunge at the MCG next Monday, and it's someone very close to home.
The next nomination is someone that is close to the hearts of Melburnians. She's a huge footy fan and loves her cats. She's brought you the footy show and now is on the news each week. It is the very gorgeous...
Yeah, thanks so much, Neil.
I said it was very close to home. Any costume hints?
No costume hints. Look, I'm completely humbled and honoured to be asked, but I'm petrified at the same time.
You are going to enjoy the day. I'm not going to say that you're going to enjoy the ice, but you'll enjoy the day.
How cold is the ice, Tim?
It's as cold as ice can be.
He's still got a high voice from it.
Thank you. I look forward to it. I'll keep you posted on the outfit. Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, Tim, an AFL coach is on the verge of signing a big new contract.
Yes, he is, Beck, and we've got the exclusive details next. Also coming up, Damien Hardwick takes aim at the AFL as two of his stars prepare to return. There's breaking news too from the Match Review on a headline-grabbing magpie. Why Rafa is flirting with retirement after his historic French Open title, and Jordan Poole with the golden touch from half court in the NBA Finals. Welcome back. Brett Ratton is on the verge of cashing in on St Kilda's blistering season. Chief football reporter Tom Brown has more. And Tom, you've got an update on Ratton's contract.
Yes, that's right. Brett Ratton will get a new coaching deal with St Kilda. Last Thursday, club legend Nick Grewalt suggested the club would be derelict in their duty. They didn't at least sound out Alistair Clarkson, but a senior St Kilda source has told me today that Ratton's deal will get done and he's all under control. They'll negotiate and try to settle a deal in coming weeks. It's a great story, Tim. It's Ratton's second go. He's enormously popular. St Kilda right in contention at 8-3. Moving to North Melbourne, described to me today by one prominent source as a mess, quote and unquote. This is their last 8 games. There was no emergency board meeting regarding coach David Noble today, but there is a scheduled board meeting next week. One issue, there's a strong view from some trade sources that Jaden Stevenson should be in the side. And just finally tonight on Collingwood, Pies young star Jack Ginnivan has been fined $1,000 for this, a forearm to Bramble's face, described by the AFL as unsportsmanlike. Separately, Ginnivan's technique is under focus. Coach Craig McRae wants clarification from the AFL why this wasn't a free kick. It's not Ginnivan specific, but I know the umpires team are aware and consider if a player drops or contributes to a high tackle. Collingwood will want clarification on that issue this week, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Damien Hardwick is the latest coach to add his voice to the chorus, calling for clubs to be able to spend more money. Hardwick says the Tigers are being disadvantaged and shouldn't be punished for their success.
Fresh off the break, Damien Hardwick was back to his jovial best.
Are you slouching? Any chance of sitting up? There you go, good. You'll pay attention.
But the soft cap is no laughing matter. Hardwick wants part of the senior coach's salary placed outside the cap.
People are starting to leave the AFL environment, which we've never seen before. You know, it used to be the environment where people would come, but because people are being paid more money elsewhere, they're getting dragged out.
$3 million was slashed during COVID. The coach says sides like Richmond are being punished.
I don't think my players should have to come in and be at a disadvantage just because we've been successful over a period of time. We should be entitled to have the same resources as every other club.
The Tigers will tackle Port Adelaide without Tom Lynch, but Noah Bolter and Marlon Pickett are both set to return, while Kane Lambert is a chance to face Port despite an ongoing hip injury.
We just want to make sure that when he comes back in, he's close to as 100% as he's going to be. He's probably never going to be that again, but we want to get him as close to an opportunity to present himself according to that.
At the Bombers, Andrew McGrath didn't train today, but hopes to play on Friday night against Carlton.
Just a little bit of awareness in my sort of groin adductor area. Nothing too serious. I'm still a fairly good chance to play this weekend and looking forward to getting out there Friday night with the boys.
The midfielder suffered the injury at training on Saturday.
It's pretty innocuous, to be honest. I went to change direction and just felt something off a little bit and reported to the physios, and we took a pretty cautious approach, but nothing too serious.
Meanwhile, Hawthorn forward Jack Gunston went for scans on his troublesome ankle this afternoon. They'll find out if he's set for another stint on the sidelines tomorrow. Geelong will be without Brandon Parfitt for 4 to 6 weeks. The midfielder will have surgery in the coming days after breaking his hand in the win over the Western Bulldogs, while Gold Coast defender Lockie Weller will miss the rest of the season after scans confirmed he ruptured his ACL. And Tim, Bailey Smith has accepted his 2-game suspension for headbutting, so a big blow for the Bulldogs.
Indeed, thanks Nat. To tennis now, and Rafael Nadal has thrown doubt on his playing future just minutes after capturing his 14th French Open title. The King of Clay reeled off the last 11 games on his way to a straight sets win over Casper Ruud. But the Spaniard has admitted he needs pain-killing injections to play every match with a troublesome foot injury.
It's a historic 14th Roland Garros title for Nadal.
I'm going to be in Wimbledon if my body is ready to be in Wimbledon. If you ask me if I will be in Wimbledon, I can't give you a clear answer. If I want to win Wimbledon, of course.
Nadal now has 22 Grand Slam wins, 2 ahead of Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer. The Golden State Warriors have levelled up the final series against Boston at 1 game apiece. Steph Curry was cooking up some wild plays, but it was his protege, Jordan Poole, who stole the show right on 3/4 time.
Launches.
Draymond Green was at his chirpy best with the Celtics players as the Warriors won 107-88. Game 3 is in Boston on Thursday morning. There may be a third Splash Brother very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Tim, it's going to be a very sad day if Rafa calls it quits, isn't it?
It's hard to remember a time of tennis without him, to be quite honest.
I wasn't even born.
No, we're not going that far back.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Jane Bunn returns now. Jane, what's in store for tomorrow?
Well, Mike, it's cold, it's gusty, it's showery, but the latest guidance shows there's a break on the horizon. The full details are next. Hello again. Tomorrow is likely to be one of the coldest of this stretch, and the gusty winds will make it feel even chillier. Today we peaked at 13. Certainly not the lowest we've ever had, but it is unusual to have such a long stretch of colder than average weather. And there's still at least a week left to get through. We have showers this morning. They're in the outer southeastern suburbs. This afternoon, they stream right on through with wintry hail and rumbles of thunder. When the wind gusts in these showers, that's when it's the coldest. The temperature drops, and so does the apparent temperature, or what it feels like. The showers began the day at the coast and they spread right across the state. We are all cold, and snow is falling down to about 900 metres. Up in the Alps, the highest mountains have seen more than a metre of snow since it began late last week. Bulla and Baw Baw, they'll get the most from here as the wind has turned southwesterly. All that snow, and there is a lot of it, it's difficult to get out your front door. All that snow will eventually melt and run into the rivers late in the season, but we're actually seeing some rises in these northeastern rivers now. The Kiewa King and Seven Creeks are in minor flood. Alone near Tasmania is driving a surge after surge of cold air up from Antarctica. Now this pattern won't end until the high that is south of Perth moves right over to the Tasman Sea. So we're stuck in the pattern for nearly a week more. Showers gradually ease in the north of the state as the high comes closer, but the southwest, western Gippsland and up into the northeast still have a lot of wet weather to come. Another 20 to 50 centimetres of snow in the Alps, and Gippsland may see some with a system on Sunday. Around the nation tomorrow, lots of sunshine in Brisbane and Sydney, but the wind is cold. Wintry showers in Canberra and Hobart. It peaks at just 8 degrees. Showery in Adelaide, mainly morning. Perth, lovely. However, they'll get their own low pressure system from later on Wednesday. To Victoria, widespread showers. That's from the southwest up into the northeast, less for the rest, and it tends mostly dry in the northwest in the afternoon. But in those showers, there's wintry hail, gusty winds and snow down to about 700 metres. Closer in, the showers continue to stream through along with gusty winds and wintry hail. Both sides of the bay during the day, but then mainly eastern suburbs tomorrow night. The city doesn't rise above 11, so it's another one of our coldest days of the year. Yes, another one. Cold, showery and gusty. To the 8-day outlook, where the pattern really doesn't change until late in the long weekend. Each day we are showery. However, from Wednesday onwards, that is mainly in eastern suburbs. Western suburbs could be quite dry, so I've got 0 to 10 across the board. We're 12, 13 all the way through. On Sunday, there's a chance of another big surge of cold air coming up from the south, and that would increase the rainfall as well. But after that is when that high pressure system may start to move through. We might even see a bit of sun. Only 11 tomorrow, a wind chill factor near 0. Showers streaming through, wintry hail, so continue to rug up.
Oh, good advice.
Thanks, Jane. Thank you. And that is 7 News for this Monday. We'll have updates throughout the night.
For now, from the 7 News team, stay warm, have a great night.